In today's video, we're talking about how to sync your love life, dating, relationships, sex, everything more so to do with your personal life to your cycle. And if you're completely new to cycle syncing, then that might sound totally crazy, but I promise that just understanding your body and tuning into its cycles will change your life. Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Jillz and I help women step into their power, own their womanhood, own their femininity, and become their best self. So if that's something that you want to learn more about, you should absolutely hit that red subscribe button below and join the community. Every girl growing up should be taught in depth about their menstrual cycle. And the fact that it's not is just completely mind-blowing to me. But if you have a menstrual cycle, then the reality is that your hormones are basically different every single day of the month. And these hormone shifts affect a lot. It can affect how much energy you have. It can affect how you communicate. It can affect your libido. It can affect the food that will make you feel your best. It'll affect the workouts that will make you feel your best. Our hormones have a major impact in our life. And even though the natural disposition of most women is to ignore their cyclical changes and needs, because that's what we've been taught. We've been taught that periods are gross and that we should never talk about them and we should just never discuss them, keep them under the rug. This mindset and way of living is not necessarily the most supportive. The truth is that during the 4 different phases of our cycle, which I'll talk about in a sec, we have different strengths, we have different needs, we have different desires, and it's really important that we honor that. And I believe you can't really live in full alignment with yourself until you do so. Now in this video specifically though, I'm going to be talking about how our cycle can affect our love life, our sex life, our friendships, and just all that stuff more related to your personal life. But before I dive into this and give you all of the juicy details, I'll link my cycle syncing playlist up here and also down below in the description box too. I highly recommend you check out those other videos I have in there because I talk about how to sync your cycle to your food, your workouts, your work and productivity, and it's a lot of good stuff. First things first though, before I go into this, you have to understand the 4 different phases of your menstrual cycle so you know what I'm talking about in this video. Now, as you probably know, a woman has on average about a 28-day cycle. But let's talk about those 4 different phases. And I promise you that this is very, very easy to understand. It only takes like 30 seconds to grasp. And if you already know these 4 different phases, then you can just skip on over to the next section. The first phase is the menstrual phase, and this is when, of course, we are bleeding, and this is when all of our hormones are relatively low. This one's an easy one. When our period ends, we move into the follicular phase, which is the period of time between our period and ovulation, and this lasts about 7 to 10 days or so, and this is when our estrogen is slowly rising. And next is the ovulatory phase, and this is, not surprisingly, when we are ovulating and when an egg is made available to be fertilized. This lasts about 3 to 4 days or so, and this is when our estrogen and luteinizing hormone peak. And last is the luteal phase. This lasts about 2 weeks. This is the time between ovulation and your next period. At the end of this phase, this is when our estrogen, our progesterone, and our testosterone fall to their lowest points. And so this is when it's really common to see those symptoms of PMS. So I'm going to be referring to those 4 different phases during the rest of this video, so I just wanted to make sure that that was covered. Now, let's get into the real stuff. So in our menstrual phase, this is the time when our body is doing deep work, and we don't have to do anything for it. Our body just does it for us, kind of like breathing, but our body is doing deep work. Our body is clearing out the old so that the new can begin. This is the time where we will naturally desire to go inward a bit and retreat a bit and just slow down, and it's really important that we honor that. This is also a time where our intuition is heightened as well, so it can sometimes just be super helpful to have some quiet alone time with yourself to listen to whatever it has to say. So because we tend to go more inward during this time, it's okay to want to spend less time with friends. It's okay to want to spend less time with your partner. Doesn't mean you don't like them. You just need that alone time. And I know you can't always organize your entire schedule around your period, but during those first 3 days of my period, I really tried to avoid any sort of like big social functions that I don't necessarily have to go to. Instead, this is where you just kind of double down on the self-care. This isn't the best time to go out on crazy dates or first dates. And of course, it's not like you can't, it's just that they might not feel as good or as fun if you were to do it in another phase in your cycle. Because remember, our needs, our desires, they change. However, if you're currently coupled up with someone, then I think it's really important to communicate how you're feeling. If you want to spend more alone time, just communicate that. Or if you do want to hang out, maybe just communicate communicate that you want something a little bit more chill, more low-key, something a little bit cozier. And you know, don't be afraid to ask for what you need to, or maybe to ask for a little massage, or for him to pick up your favorite takeout. Now, it's likely that when it comes to sex, your interest might be a little bit low, and that's totally okay. If it's not, more power to you, go for it. But if it is, which is very common, that's okay. It's totally okay to take a few days off. Again, this is your inward time. But if you do want to have sex though, keep in mind that even though this is the menstrual phase, this is actually a dry phase in your cycle. And so if you do want to have sex, it can be helpful to have like a little bit of extra lubrication. Also, your cervix is in a lower position during this time, so it might be painful or uncomfortable if he were to, you know, go far back in there. Listen to your body here, let yourself rest. Don't feel bad if you want some extra alone time. And if you really honor this sacred time in your cycle, then I promise you that you will have more energy and more vibrancy throughout the rest of the month. So as your period ends and you move into the follicular phase, this is when you're gonna start kind of like feeling like yourself again, getting that energy back. And if you took the time to go more inward and rest more during the menstrual phase, then you're likely gonna feel just like ready to go and excited. So during this phase, our energy increases, our creativity increases, and this is the time to get yourself out there, try new things. If there is any time in your cycle to try something new, this is the time. Go to that dance class you've been wanting to go to with a friend. Go to that new restaurant that just opened up that looks super cool. Go on that spontaneous weekend road trip. All of this will be super fun and super revitalizing to you. So break out of your routine a little bit and try new things. Of course, you can do all of this alone, but it can be really fun to have all of this adventure with either your girlfriends or your partner. Now, when it comes to romance, this is a great time for more of those creative, fun date nights. So maybe go to that cooking class together, or just go do something fun. Don't just sit at home and watch reruns of The Office together. This is also a great time for cardio, a little random, but it's a great time for cardio. So it's really fun and it's gonna feel good to go for like long walks or jogs in nature with friends, with your partner, whatever. Just keep it fun. Focus on adding fun and fun events like this to your calendar, because if you just stay inside during this entire phase, then you likely will not feel very satisfied. Now, in regards to sex, you're probably going to be getting some of that mojo back a little bit, but just keep in mind that this is still another dry phase, more specifically in the beginning of this phase. So you again might need to use a little bit of extra lubrication to make things feel good. And like I mentioned, this is a great time to try new things, be a bit adventurous. So if you would like to take that to the bedroom, then go right ahead. You might be in the mood for some of that. Next, when you approach the ovulatory phase, this is when you will have tons of energy, feel super vibrant, feel super social, naturally just be a really good communicator, naturally be way more productive, and this is just a fun time. So yes, this is naturally when we are most social and when we crave that social interaction. So go to a party, go host a party, go to brunch with your friends, meet a bunch of new people. This is just a really good time to get out there, hang out with friends, and especially meet new people. Now, this is your fertile time, so you'll likely be feeling a bit more flirty, maybe a little bit more frisky, usually more confident, usually your skin will be clearer. You're just gonna be feeling really good. You're gonna be feeling yourself. So this is an amazing time for first dates or group dates. Because this is our fertile window, we actually seem more appealing and attractive during this time because we're giving off these fertile pheromones and the opposite sex picks that up. And so yeah, first dates can be super exciting and super successful during this time. Another little random fun fact though about the ovulatory phase is that this is when we are naturally more attracted to masculine partners, because this is when our estrogen is peaking, and estrogen, testosterone, are a magnet. This is just the way our hormones are during this time. So fun fact for you. Because you're ovulating though and in your fertile phase, this is usually when your libido will be at its highest, and this is usually when sex will feel the most satisfying. Obviously, if you're not trying to have a baby, use protection and all that, but enjoy it. This is just a great time to spend lots of time with your partner, including intimate time. And I'm not just talking about sex, but also things like cuddling and holding hands and kissing. All of that kind of stuff will just feel really good to you during this time. Go out, spend lots of time with your friends. Just don't coop yourself up at home alone, because if you do, then you will likely feel really just like lonely, probably kind of sad, just unsatisfied. And that is just not what your hormones hormones want right now. It wants to get out there. And finally, the luteal phase, the last of the 4 phases. So remember that this is usually about 2 weeks or so. So this is the longest of the 4 phases. And in that first week, you'll likely still feel kind of like you're gonna be feeling really good. You're still gonna be feeling that high from the ovulatory phase. You're probably still gonna have that energy and that vitality, but as you move into that second week, that's when you will really start to feel more of those dramatic shifts. Because remember, when we transition between phases, it's not like this all of a sudden start and stop. It's a gentle transition, like a wave. So when that happens, our energy will kind of drop a little bit. We'll usually need more sleep. We'll usually crave more of that like slower time and more chill time instead of that go, go, go. So when it comes to relationships, this is a great time for those like chill date nights in, you know, cooking together, making a home cooked meal instead of going out to a crowded restaurant, or just ordering takeout and cuddling on the couch, or having a movie night, anything more laid back. And this is the time for those office reruns. Constant group settings will likely feel like it's a little too much. It might feel a little bit like extra draining for you, because right now it's all about that chill, slower, one-on-one time. Now, something really important to note though, the luteal phase is when we will experience those PMS symptoms if we have any. So yes, you might feel some mood swings or have some mental struggles if your hormones are imbalanced, but this is also the time in our cycle where our intuition starts to peak again, and anything that's not working in your relationship or in your life, it starts to hit you in the face. It starts to become crystal clear. And we've been conditioned to ignore any sort of heavy thoughts or emotions during this time because we've been taught that they must be hormonal. But sometimes it's just a clear indicator that something needs addressing or fixing or shifting in our relationship or in our life to better suit us and our needs. The reason that this happens is because during this phase, our estrogen drops. And estrogen actually makes us a little bit more tolerant of things, and it makes us more willing to overlook things to stay in our happy place. But when it drops, again, if you have any problems, or as I like to say, unfulfilled needs, then it will start to become very clear. Don't ignore these nudges. If your hormones are relatively balanced, then these nudges might be guiding you. So when it comes to sex though, you might still have some of that mojo from the ovulatory phase in the beginning of your luteal phase, but eventually as you get more into the second week of this phase and you start to get closer and closer to your period, you're likely going to want to take things a little bit slower, and you'll likely need more foreplay and arousal to get you going. Whereas in the ovulatory phase, you're kind of just more so ready to go. As you go deeper and deeper into your luteal phase and closer and closer to your next period, then you will likely feel that pull to go more inward and be more gentle with yourself. And then you will repeat this cycle all over again. Now, I just want to give a very important reminder that yes, all of these things can be heavily impacted by your cycle, but there are other things that can impact your relationships and your desire to want to go out and your sexual desire and all that kind of stuff. It can be affected by stress. It can be affected by your workload. It can be affected by your diet. If you just recently had a fight with your partner, or he did something that made you feel like you can't trust him, obviously all of these things are going to affect these areas of your personal life. Your cycle is just one of them, one very big one. Now, if you made it this far, which by the way, I greatly appreciate you, if you made it this far, definitely go check out my cycle syncing playlist right here. I'll teach you how to sync your diet, your workouts, your work and productivity, all that kind of stuff to your cycle. And it is all information that has literally changed my life. So I will see you over there, or I will see you in my next video. Bye.